This episode is brought to you by Merrill. Join one of the most iconic names in wealth management, Merrill. You'll be part of a dynamic team of advisors and specialists working hard every day to grow their clients' wealth. And with the support of best-in-class research, advanced digital tools, and the resources of a global institution, it's truly an opportunity you can be bullish about. Learn more at careers.bankofamerica.com. Copyright 2024, Bank of America Corporation.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a one-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. And what if I had a guest for you that has a passion for mentoring, integrating faith, storytelling, and humor in leadership lessons, and also talks about financial expertise, communication mastery, and gives insightful discussions. Well, today's guest, Rusty Fooling, will do just that. He's a great addition to the audience. I'm really happy to have him on the show. So, Rusty, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Good to visit with you prior to the show, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I know. So briefly, talk about your background and your journey, and I'm really excited to dive into the questions to add value to the audience.
Absolutely. Well, I know we talked a little bit about entrepreneurship ahead of time, and I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My father was an electrician and had an electrical company, and so I learned how to run wire and get shocked and all those kind of things early on. And my mom was a house cleaner, had her own company, and so got to come along beside her in cleaning houses, and so really, learned a lot of the entrepreneurship, in my early days, and you would think I would have gotten that out of my system, but oh my goodness, about 25 years ago, launched Fooling Management and Accounting, which is our company today, and we provide fractional CFO work for companies around the country.
Yeah, really interesting and really great segue. And so, we'll segue into the questions. And first thing is talking about is, in your journey around entrepreneurship, if you could give like one piece of advice to the audience, because a lot of these audiences, they're either self-employed or they're thinking about it, but they're scared. What is one thing that you would tell them in order to get them started on the road to becoming an entrepreneur?
Yes, embrace the fear. Yes, it can be scary. I think one of the things that was so helpful for me, and that what I've seen in other entrepreneurs, is don't do it alone. Surround yourself. I always talk about C's. Have a coach or a mentor in your field. There's somebody to cheer you on during those tough times, and a community. So, just a group of people that you can go to, but don't do it alone, because boy, it can be really lonely, making payroll and trying to figure things out on your own.
Yeah, and then a follow-up question is, because a lot of the audience, they're doctors and lawyers and dentists, and they're so used to having a skill and a craft, and, they have a skill and they see patients or they deliver it. How is the skill of a self-employed person different from that of an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that is such a great question, and I'll actually use a doctor example that we've gotten to work with years ago that was trying to do everything on their own. The bookkeeping, the scheduling, the everything, and they were spending so much time in administrative work that their front desk person was making more than them as a physician. And I thought, oh, you've missed it. And I think so many entrepreneurs often think, I've got to do everything. And we miss out on really where we're gifted. And so if we're a physician, you should not be doing your own billing. You should not be doing all the administrative work. Where are you best used? And so one exercise we often do is to do a time audit and just list everything you do throughout the week or the month, and encircle those items that only you can do. And most of the time, those other things can be leveraged.
Yeah, and a lot of the when they first hear that, it's almost like kind of like eye-opening that being an entrepreneur and a business owner, it takes different skill sets. And I know a lot of doctors that are excellent, outstanding in their craft, but they're financially poor because they just have bad habits and, they just don't have time to devote. And, I know a lot of bad doctors that are, extraordinarily rich because they understand these principles. So moving the question forward, you talk about a lot about faith and into your daily business practices and decision-making process. How do you factor that in your day-to-day activities?
Yeah. One of the things we did probably 10 years ago is really establish our core values in our business. And we talked about, we use the acronym GRACE, GRACE. G is growth. R would be represent the client, make sure we're doing things that's best on behalf of the client. A is accountability, make sure we're accountable not only to the clients, but our team members as well. C is having a champion attitude. So champion attitude, even on those days that are tough. And the last one we call is E, from the word grace, is eternal impact. How can we have a bigger impact than just the numbers that we're, together and the reports we're putting together? And so we're always looking for ways that we can make an impact on our team and our community and our clients through the work that we do and in and outside of the proverbial office.
The next question I have for you is, you talk about storytelling as a leadership tool, and can you share how storytelling has helped you lead and mentor more effectively?
Yeah. One of the things when you're dealing with numbers, and this happens a lot, is we'll see business owners' eyes just glaze over when you're going through, a financial report. And I was actually with a group of doctors that we worked with for a number of years, and we had this long financial report, and they would get so bored until we got to page 13, and page 13 was the bonus page. And so we learned quickly, tell the story of the first 13 briefly, give them the summary, give them the highlights, but go to what's important to them. And so sometimes that storytelling, you have to know your audience to understand what story resonate with them. And so again, for that particular group, it was helpful because we figured out what was valuable to them and then craft the story around, here's what made this happen. And so the more we do that, it really brings the numbers to life and helps move the businesses forward.
Yeah, I really love that analogy. Just in it, kind of as opposed to like kind of the nitpicky, it's like you put a holistic approach and it helps people understand. Like, sometimes I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll be like, explain to me like I'm in 5-year-old, and then if I don't understand, I'll explain it to me, if is, so, but talk about this idea of just culture and how you build business culture remotely. What strategies do you recommend for fostering a strong company culture in a virtual environment?
Yeah. We were a brick and mortar kind of we had an office space for probably the first 20 years. And it was literally during the COVID, height of COVID, that we sent everyone home. And during that time, we heard a lot about mental health, as far as, boy, this is a challenge for people working on their own. And so we started creating just a buddy system, just a check-in system with our team. We'd partner team members up and just to, jump on Zoom together. And what's neat is 4 or 5 years later, a lot of those check-ins are still happening on a regular basis. And so I think that was part of it. But we talk about building that positive culture, that healthy culture. And one is just investing in our team on a weekly basis. And so what that looks like in our environment is we'll have a once a week staff meeting, and we always start that out with shout outs and go around the room and hear everybody's, what was your win for the week? And then if there's anything that was really outstanding that week, that maybe, Chris did this amazing job on this project, we're going to be hearing that from other team members shouting Chris out. So invest in your team weekly, incorporate fun and serving opportunities. And so even though we're virtual, we still do things like Christmas parties and and different serving events. And tell you, we've got an incredibly innovative team around those kind of things. And so it's so much fun. So incorporate fun and serving. And the last I is in-person celebrations. We fly everybody in together once a year into Kansas City, where we're home based, and have a great celebration time, and then some strategic planning time, and a serving in our community time. So invest in your team weekly, incorporate those fun and serving events, and then in-person celebrations.
Yeah, I love that acronym. And especially in today's kind of, and I know a lot of leaders, they actually, fly people in for company retreats. Moving on to mentorship and personal growth, how has mentorship played a role in your career, and what tips do you have for mentors and mentees today?
Yeah, mentorship, that's been just a huge influence in my life. I've had some incredible mentors over the years. It could be business, it could be family mentors, just those that are maybe a few steps ahead. And somewhere along the line, Chris, we hit a certain age where all of a sudden we become the mentor and not so much the mentee. But it's fun to get to kind of play both positions now, where again I still have mentors that I lean into for just guidance on some things, or thing that I'm missing in this, and I get to come along beside some business leaders that are maybe a little bit earlier in their stage of business, and what that might look like is getting together once a month. And maybe even on Zoom or in person. And a lot of times the mentees will prepare questions they want to get just feedback on from the mentor. And I've just seen so much growth again in my own life, getting to play both roles, but also in those I've gotten to work with. So definitely would encourage people to reach out to mentors. Just don't think it's going to happen, organically, but be intentional about that.
Yeah, and also, what are your thoughts about this idea? Because I was listening to this YouTube podcast the other day, and he was saying, because I've had great in-person mentors, but a lot of times it was formed from learning from people what not to do, and also just from reading books and absorbing knowledge, and I consider those really great mentor sources. So what are your thoughts on in-person versus just other sources where you can get that knowledge?
Yeah, no, I love that distinction, because sometimes you'll have people say, "Oh, I've got this mentor that's a great podcast host," and have you ever met them? And I often wonder if those might be more influencers versus mentors. And so just finding that distinction between the two, I think, can be helpful. There's a great book on mentorship called The Mulligan by Ken Blanchard, just a small little book. But I just thought, sometimes it is helpful to be in person. I would say the mentorships I've seen work well are definitely that back and forth interaction, and not just a one way, just a listening like you might have from an influencer. So, but whatever can help a person grow, I definitely wouldn't discount those influencers by any means.
And moving on, the next question I have for you, because you've had, you have faith and you've got family and business, and you've balanced those three over 3 decades. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs? Because they want to do well, they want to succeed and make an impact, financially as spiritually. And what advice do you have for entrepreneurs managing wanting similar aspirations?
Yes. I think part of it is identifying your purpose. There's some great resources out there, because sometimes it can be, oh, this one person does this so well, I'm going to imitate them. And I'd be cautious about imitating others, but maybe be influenced by others. If there's something that somebody else is doing that you really aspire to, maybe be inspired by that. But one book that I found really helpful is called The Strength of Purpose, and by Elizabeth Dixon. And the neat thing about that book is it really kind of helps you identify what are those things that are important for you. And if faith and family and serving others and those kind of things are important, boy, how do you make sure you're focusing on those throughout your day-to-day activities? And so, give an example. I had 5 that I came up with: encourage, guide, equip, serve, and listen. And somebody asked the other day, what is it that energizes you throughout the day? And I would say, if I'm doing all 5 or even some of those 5 throughout the day, that's what brings me energy and joy and fulfillment, because I'm living into the purpose, that at least I've identified, I guess, as far as where I should be and what I should be doing. So definitely I'd encourage entrepreneurs and any leader to lean into, hey, what is it that I'm called to do?
Really inspiring. So kind of shifting the tone a little bit, we've had, I think I would say the past 24 years have been just really volatile, and just reflecting on past economic downturns or crises, what leadership qualities do you think are essential for navigating tough times?
Really good. Going back to those 3 C's, I think have been helpful, that coach, community, and cheerleader. I think those are so important. Sometimes we just discount, I have to come up with all the answers kind of thing. I think having that accountability group, I've got some great groups of leaders, roundtable type groups that I get with just to navigate through some of those seasons. I think of, we'll use the COVID season as a sample. We saw some companies that we work with that, what really was challenged during that time, and others that really did well during those times. And so sometimes just coming along beside, getting perspective from others, that can often kind of help ground a person. And so, I would just go back to that community, coach and cheerleader advice on something like that.
Yeah. We're coming to the end of the talk, and I want to talk about leaving a lasting legacy. And besides financial success, how do you define and work towards leaving a legacy through your family and your businesses?
Yeah. There was a workshop that my wife and I had a chance to attend earlier this year called Seventh Gen, or Seventh Generation. And the idea is, what do you want to be true today that is going to be true 7 generations from now in your family? And boy, that really began some long-term thinking, as far as, so many people, it's like, what do I leave for people? But I think it's more, what do I leave in people, and what kind of impact can, 7 generations from now, they don't need to know my name or, my wife's name, but are there some things that we can begin doing that we want to be true, down the road? And so just being more intentional about that. If you have a spouse, boy, getting together and talking about, what do we want to be true, about our family unit, and maybe business as well. That's another one. But I think it's just spending some time on that. For us, again, it was faith and family kind of language that we were using. From others, again, it may be some dollars or those kind of things. So find out what's important to you and begin defining those together. That's been extremely helpful for us.
And rounding it out, how do you continue to develop yourself personally and professionally as a CEO? And how can people find you and follow you and reach out to you and learn more about you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll answer the second question first. They can go out to Fulling, mgmt.com, fullingmanagement.com. That'd be our accounting and CFO site, or rustyfulling.com. That's more leadership lessons and things that I've learned along the way that I've shared out there. So those would be 2 connection points. And then I would encourage, any leader, don't cap out. Don't feel like you've ever learned it all, because, at that point you become irrelevant. And so I think one of the things that still keeps me excited to show up every day and come along beside others are things like roundtable groups, where you get to meet with other business leaders and just, lean into them and vice versa, kind of be challenged. They talk about iron sharpens irons kind of things. For me too, these days that we have grandkids. And so I love, those are inspiring, keeping up with them but developing those relationships, don't afraid to be vulnerable with trusted advisors. And I think those are the kind of things I would encourage any leader to lean into some of those.
I really enjoyed this conversation, and great insights and great answers, and I'm sure the audience got a lot of value. And thanks so much, and keep up the great work.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Sure appreciate it. Good to see you.